Listen to this episode if virality has been on one of your goals list for a long time. Whether you're chasing virality and you've had success with it or you haven't yet, this episode is going to be really great for you. We're talking about why virality really isn't the goal. So many product-based business owners are out there thinking that one viral post will fix their sales problem. But the truth really is that virality is just attention. It's not necessarily conversions. And we're really going to talk about this, what you need before you actually are looking for visibility in general in your business. I have a lot of people that actually chase major visibility too early without having some of the foundational principles. So then they end up with visibility and nobody is actually converting. Virality is really not a model for business growth. It's a moment. It's not true momentum. Without the strategy first, the systems, the community, the proper content, the proper website, the proper emails, that viral post won't actually equal even sometimes profit or actual overall growth. You need some important pieces of the puzzle prior to this virality. And even then, we want it to still be kind of controlled. Virality is a really interesting conversation when it comes to growing a business because it's not actually something many people want. By the end of the episode, you'll know why going viral isn't actually the answer and what to focus on instead if you want consistent, predictable growth. Now, there is a point in time that virality is a goal for you, or visibility in general is a goal, and we're going to talk about that today. This episode will be for you if you feel like you're hustling, trying to make trending reels or TikToks, but sales don't really match the views that you have coming in. Maybe you even feel frustrated that you are just spinning your wheels trying to have a post gain some visibility and nothing is really working for you. You're having followers, but not really buyers. You have a lot of people lurking. You're gaining visibility and you're gaining followers, but that isn't really leading to sales. Maybe even you're wondering why your social media isn't converting, even though you're consistent. This is going to talk about before you actually have a lot of people moving through your funnels, what you really need to be able to do. If you want sustainable growth without burning out, chasing an algorithm, that is what we're talking about today. This is actually a coaching sessions episode. We do this every Friday. Somebody inside of our free podcast community, the Small Business Cafe, submits a question. It says, I keep going viral, but it doesn't lead to sales. I have 10,000 plus followers, but I'm struggling to make more than 40 sales a month. What do I do instead? What am I doing wrong? We're going to dive into this. I'm going to answer this person's question. Before we do that, I just want to take 10 quick seconds to say hello, just in case you're new here. My name is Madison Page. I am the host of the Small Business Growth Podcast. I am a business growth specialist, and I help turn product-based small businesses into a household name so you can really build that long-lasting brand that I know you want to. We're going to first talk about the myth of virality kind of on the sales side, the delivery side, as well as what happens when you go viral, why it's something you don't always want, what actually creates growth, and what you actually do need before we're really focusing on visibility. Because there is a time that you do need visibility in your business. I really like to get my clients there. So, my signature program is Product to Profit. I have a program that helps people build all of the foundations within their brand that they need. And a lot of times people leave, and when they are done with this program, then all they need is visibility. All they need is, okay, now we could go viral because we have all of the foundational elements. We know their social media is going to convert. We know that they'll build a community. We know that their website is optimized. We know that their profit is optimized. They've taken the time to optimize all of those foundations. So now all they need to do is pump people through a funnel, push people through that buying cycle, and we'll start to see more of either what breaks, what's working, and what those conversion rates are. This is how I have clients pre-revenue that really start to build some incredible sales prior to, because we get them set up with the foundations they need prior to the visibility push. So the major myth behind virality is that I'm going to have one Instagram post go viral or one TikTok go viral, and then overnight, my business is going to blow up. And honestly, you hear this a lot on Instagram Reels where people are like, I had one video get 3 million views and then it changed my life forever. I had this one post blow up on Instagram and it changed my life forever. It does change your life. Like if you gain 10,000 followers, it absolutely can change your life, but it doesn't mean that it's actually optimized, and it doesn't mean it's actually the best thing for you to do, because what happens is the people buy, and then if you don't have the proper marketing foundations or principles set up, then they're just going to move into kind of stagnant followers. And or you're just going to lose them overall. Many people gain, 3,000 followers, 5,000 followers, 10,000 followers, and then they actually say that their engagement goes down, their sales go down, and all of this other things because it actually just ends up diluting the people that are aligned going to see you. So most of the time, virality is just traffic. It doesn't necessarily mean conversions if you don't have these other pieces out there. Why product-based business owners chase virality is because they feel like the more followers they're going to have, the more conversions they're going to have, because you hear that business is a numbers game, but it doesn't necessarily mean that people will convert. Virality without foundations can bring people in, but it doesn't guarantee that they're going to turn into customers. From the sales side, the problem with virality is that we need the website set up properly, the right messaging, the right email flows, the right content to go out there to actually convert them. Even when they come to your profile, they need to see the proper information in order to want to convert. And from the delivery side, you actually fulfilling these orders, you may not actually have the capacity for the sales to come in. You may have too many sales without the production system that actually can lead to upset customers, can lead to kind of production and fulfillment issues. And so what I often see on the delivery side is that you might get an influx of 1,000 orders overnight, and then some of your customers have to wait a couple weeks to actually get their product, which isn't a good sign. So a good kind of, marker that you're not ready for virality or big time visibility is if you can't handle a influx of 100, 200, 1,000, orders overnight. If you wouldn't be ready for that, we have to build out some systems in the delivery side first as well. So a lot of times what happens when you go viral without these proper foundations is you have a lot of eyes, but you have low conversions. You're just chasing another viral post as well. You depend on the algorithm. It's out of your control when you get another influx of sales. So people that have a viral post oftentimes get, they'll get $10,000 of sales and then they'll get none. And then they'll get $3,000 of sales and then they'll get none, because they can figure out how to go viral again and gain a little bit of sales. But that means that if the algorithm changes, it's completely gone. That means that, once that post stops working, because inevitably it will, then it's gone. It means that you're basically chasing algorithm as opposed to actually chasing consistent sales. There's a lot of post-virality disappointment or burnout because you don't get that hit. If you're not getting that next dopamine spike of going viral and getting a bunch of sales coming in, and all of a sudden you're made to just have to make consistent sales and it's not working, you're feeling like a big failure. You're feeling like you're disappointing because you had this quote unquote momentum, but you didn't have momentum. You had a moment. Transaction may come through, but do they remember you? A lot of times we see with virality is somebody buys from you, but they don't have any connection point with the actual brand. They just liked the product, so they don't come back, they don't refer you, they don't send you elsewhere. So instead of chasing this virality, Abby is the person that submitted this question. She said, I keep going viral, but it doesn't lead to sales. I have 10,000 plus followers, but I'm struggling to make more than 40 sales a month. What do I do instead of going viral? My goal really would be to be connection with these followers. I want you to audit when you go viral. Are you actually building followers that seem like A, real people, or B, aligned customers? Because sometimes it happens where you go viral to a different side of the world or to a very different niche and you start gaining these followers that aren't actually aligned. If that's the case, I'd honestly rather you not even gain those followers and have fewer followers and actually keep your audience very aligned. So, a community, we want to really talk about sharing your values, making people know your name, follow you, and actually stick around. Connection is not just a transaction, is really what we're focusing on here. So if you have these 10,000 followers, but you're only making 40 sales a month, there's a couple of things that I would expect to be wrong here. I would expect your messaging to be kind of diluted, that you aren't actually talking about either who your product is made for, what makes it so different, or, what makes it so wonderful, that these people aren't really feeling like they know what your business is all about. Is they're coming in because they're clearly intrigued by those posts, but either that post isn't talking about your product in the right way, or, eyes alone is not actually what we're looking for. We want these people to be aligned. So making sure when you do go viral or you do gain visibility, making sure that those posts have something to do with your overall product and the problem that you're solving. If we can make those your viral posts, we know that they're much more likely to be aligned. And when you do have these new people in, we want to get them really integrated into your community right away. Maybe doing a little bit of an intro, doing a little bit of hey, this is who I am. Because you have 10,000 followers, but they're not really engaging, I would expect that your messaging is probably a little dull, that people just don't really know why they should shop from you over everybody else. I would also anticipate indicate that your content doesn't have much variety in educating them, making them feel involved, giving them some value, and making them want to engage with your brand. It's probably lacking a little bit there. Again, we're looking for community members, not just followers. People need to feel connected to your brand, not just entertained to stick around. It's easy to get someone to see something and buy it once, but we're aiming for people to come and really love your brand and share about it. So what we really want to do is we have to make our values and our message very known. Hey, I'm jumping in here for 30 quick seconds for those of you who are loving the podcast but wish we could dive deeper into every episode topic together. I have actually started a completely free podcast community called the Small Business Cafe for exactly this purpose. Inside this community, we dive deeper into every podcast episode, provide bonus resources, and actually host completely free monthly coaching calls with me. So you can get your questions answered. Plus, you get to submit your questions for our Friday coaching session episodes and connect with other founders too. If you have been loving being a part of this podcast and want to connect with other brand founders, plus get extra support from me, click the link in the show notes below to join. What I would rather you have than virality is stop chasing these viral posts, because what happens often is that somebody has a post that goes viral once, they get an influx of followers, and then they make something very similar to try to get that same result, and then they do get that same result. However, again, they don't have those foundations. So I can't completely diagnose this problem. This is basically like somebody telling me, hey, I have a cough, and a cough can mean a million different things. It can be, allergies. It can be that something's wrong in your house. It can be that you're sick. It could mean that you have something else going on. I would need to look a little bit deeper. Do you have other symptoms? Look at your data is really what I would want to look at. So what I would recommend to you is if you have 10,000 followers, I want you to go through the buying process. Are they going to your website? Are they checking out? Are they adding things to your cart? Where in this buying process are they actually falling off? And that is where we would identify this. I actually did this with a new client yesterday. Is they came to me and they have 15,000 followers, and they're in a very similar situation. They have the followers, but yet they're not making very many consistent sales. They can make a good amount of sales at a launch, but they can't really make a good amount of sales consistently over time. So what this tells me is that I want them to focus on what helps people grow, what helps people nurture, and what helps people sell. We basically reverse engineered their data, and we identified where people were falling off. For this client, they had a lot of sessions on their website. They had many people coming to their site, but they had a very low conversion rate, which means people were searching around and they weren't finding what they were looking for. So we have to change part of their marketing, change part of their messaging, and change part of their overall kind of process to get people, when they come to their website, to know what they're looking for, as well as we wanted to streamline their overall website possibility there as well. I would rather you have 3 orders a day than have 40 sales in one day. I would rather you figure out how do we get new people in, build them into a community, and sell to them, because that's going to allow for sustainable growth, for happy customers, and for a happy founder as well. So we're not really looking for these big pushes of sales. Instead, we're looking for consistent daily sales. Visibility is a goal, and we'll talk about in a second when we need visibility. And there is a point that visibility is a really good focus. But if we're seeing that you have 10,000 followers and they're not making sales, this tells me you have a breakdown somewhere in your marketing or your sales process. It can be at the very top of this funnel, kind of like the visibility of it. Maybe they're the wrong people. Maybe they aren't really, your aligned people. So then everything else below that is broken. But it also can mean if they're engaging with you on social, they're just not buying. It's probably more of a sales problem. I want to look at your website. I want to look and see, how are we actually selling to these people? What do they feel like your brand is all about? And do we actually see where they're purchasing? Maybe they're falling off on your website. So if you were a client of mine, Abby, who submitted this question, you have 10,000 followers, but you're struggling to make more than 40 sales a month, I would look at your data and I would reverse engineer where your sales breakdown is. And then we would do things upwind of that to really start to basically plug that hole. Right now you have a leaky bucket. So you have a bunch of water being poured into your bucket of new followers. However, you still have holes in this bucket that are making you lose water out of the side of it. What we got to do is we got to put a little bit of Flex Seal on all of those little holes over and over again in your marketing and your sales and your messaging and your content, in how people operate on your business, because you have a breakdown elsewhere. So what I would recommend for you is actually stop chasing virality and instead, A, look at your data. B, I would anticipate you needing to kind of re-engage your audience and kind of clarify some of those pieces. Just from working with many people that have been in this situation, we need to re-engage your audience by changing your messaging and your marketing in order to have more variety in your marketing and have messaging around your value around that a little bit better as well. I want you to think depth, not breadth when it comes to your audience. Again, I would rather you have 500 engaged, aligned community members rather than 50,000 ghost followers that don't really matter. So what we really want to focus on here, what actually creates growth is, yes, visibility, but we need to make sure that we have all of this solid. So what do you need before visibility is exactly what I do with my clients is we talk about brand, we talk about marketing, we talk about community, and we talk about sales. So your brand is we need the foundations. Who do you sell to? What is your differentiator? And what is your brand all about? When we talk about marketing, we need a channel that really makes sense for you. We need a content that has variety and really talks about the proper topics that's necessary. When it comes to community, we need people engaged and really loving what you have. And when it comes to sales, we need people to know and understand what products they want. We need a website that, is seamless for people to really check out. And we need some, funnels, emails, things like that to actually kind of pull people through that buying process. And without those pillars, we really need to know that when somebody finds you at the end of the day, to kind of put a bow on it, when somebody finds you, they are going to naturally be nurtured into your community and that they are going to be sold to seamlessly within your current marketing and your sales system, that they can easily go from new follower to checkout because there really isn't any major gaps within there. There's more to social media than just virality. Think of it more as that home of your community to get people integrated into, and then we're sending them either to your bestsellers, to your email list, to this value center, to all of these other things. We want to create content that actually nurtures on your social media, that builds people into a community, not just gets eyes, because there is 3 stages of the buying cycle. I guess there's 4. There's a lot of different ways that people say this. I think awareness, interest, desire, action is the most well-known. So awareness, right now you have a lot of people in awareness. They may be interested if they're highly engaged, but the desire isn't there because they're missing something in your marketing. And then action. What a lot of people do is they go from grow to sell. They go from awareness to action, and they're missing the interest and the desire. It is your purpose as a business owner to build interest and desire around your products. We can't just go from virality to sales all of the time. When visibility is the goal is when you have all of those foundations set up. So like with my clients, I get them the proper, pinned posts. I have the email funnels listed. I know that their website has really seamless, natural, direction that when someone comes to their website, they're able to convert. I know that their content on their profile has enough variety in it and the proper topics that they're talking about that when people come, they're going to be nurtured into actually shopping further. And so once they kind of get to that point, all we need is visibility, not just virality. I really don't think virality is a goal. It's not never, but there's a lot of ways other than virality that you can get visibility that's a little bit more controlled and a little bit more aligned. You can't control virality at all. You don't know who it's going to and when it's going to go to the wrong side of the internet. So, if we go PR, if we go influencer marketing, if we go other certain types of ads, things like that, we can kind of gather who it's going to and we can control it a little bit more. Virality is not the only means of visibility for your business. There is a point in time that visibility is key, but we have to have these foundational principles first. If when I ask you if you have a marketing strategy or why you're posting what you're posting on social, if those are the questions that I'm asking you and you don't have an answer to it yet, you're not yet at a point of visibility. The stages of business, I have a lot of podcasts about these stages of business growth. The first stage is to set the foundational pillars that people need. That is the branding, the marketing, and the sales and the community there. And then the second phase is, okay, now let's pump people through that marketing and the sales process. Now we need visibility. So if you're still in this phase 1, but you are kind of jumped to phase 2, no wonder people aren't buying is because you don't have the foundational pieces there that people need in order to buy. So the major reminder here is that there are lots of ways to get visibility. That doesn't necessarily mean virality, because you can control virality to an extent. You can aim for it. You can kind of test for it, but you can't always guarantee it. We don't just want to depend on an algorithm. I want your top of funnel stuff that gets people to see you to be aligned and to the right people. But most importantly, I want your whole system to really work very seamlessly prior to virality. So Abby, your question of I keep going viral, but it doesn't lead to sales. I have 10,000 followers, but I'm struggling to make more than 40 sales a month. What do I do instead? The short answer, after 20 minutes of me talking about this, the short answer is I want you to connect with these customers. I want you to audit your marketing. I want you to see, is my message very clear? Do I have variety in my content? And do I actually have core foundational principles behind my brand that would make people purchase? How easy is it to buy on my website? How easy is it to figure out which product I want? How many options am I giving people? And with too many options, with a confusing buying process, no wonder people might not be buying from you. So how can you think outside of virality is a good action item here? And B, how can you adjust how you're thinking about your social media right now to not just be, how can I get more eyes, but how can I actually connect with more people that are in front of me? It doesn't mean that these 10,000 are like null and void. What it means is that you have to go back and kind of re-engage the people you have, adjust the marketing that you have, adjust the messaging that you have out there in order to get people to feel very connected. Going viral just means attention. It doesn't necessarily mean conversions when you don't have the proper foundation set. You need to ensure these people will properly be nurtured and loved and seen and heard through the buying process before you're actually looking to get more eyes. If you're feeling stuck kind of chasing these trends, chasing this virality, I would love to support you and answer any questions that you have. Please join our free podcast community, the Small Business Cafe. If you want me to answer one of your business questions that you have, you can join in there and add it into the Ask the Host section, and I might just answer your question in one of our next episodes. Abby, thank you so much for submitting this. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. We put out new episodes every Tuesday and Friday. If you loved this episode and you want to hear more, we have over 400 episodes out there of tactical business knowledge. I love you. I'm rooting for you. I'm in your corner always, and I will see you in the next episode. If you found today's episode helpful and are looking for more tangible ways to grow your business, make sure you are subscribed to the show. If you want to dive deeper into this topic more, click the link in the show notes and join our completely free podcast community where we dive into every single podcast topic, as well as give some bonus support and free coaching calls. And finally, if you are interested in getting my eyes on your business to find your hidden opportunities to scale, apply to work with me one-on-one in the show notes or on our website. Remember, it's not enough to listen. Don't forget to implement too. I love ya. I'll see you in the next episode.